Have you ever taken advice from the wrong person? If yes, then you're not alone. We often find ourselves seeking guidance from others. It's a natural part of the human experience, but it's crucial to discern whose advice is truly valuable and whose might lead us astray. Whether it's about relationships, work, or life in general, the right advice can make all the difference. So let's get started and identify the 9 types of people you should never take advice from. First on our list is the pessimist. The pessimist is the individual who, no matter what, always seems to find the cloud behind every silver lining. They're the ones who focus on the negative, zeroing in on obstacles and setbacks instead of potential opportunities. With them, every glass is half empty, and their advice often reflects this worldview. When you share your dreams or ambitions, they might discourage you, pointing out all the things that could go wrong. Instead of encouraging you to take risks, they might urge you to stay within your comfort zone, to play it safe. It's easy to get bogged down by their doom and gloom perspective. However, remember, life is a balance of positive and negative experiences. While it's important to be realistic and consider potential challenges, it's equally important to stay hopeful and optimistic. So the next time you seek advice, consider the source. It's crucial to take advice from someone who encourages optimism and positivity. Next up, we have the envious. Now, we all feel a pang of envy from time to time. It's part of the human condition. But when it comes to seeking advice, envious individuals can often project their own insecurities and desires onto you. Imagine a friend who's always wanted to be a musician. If you ask them whether you should pursue a career in medicine or music, their advice might lean towards music, not because it's necessarily the best choice for you, but because it reflects their unfulfilled dreams. Moreover, envious people are often not genuinely happy for your successes. They might unconsciously steer you towards choices that lessen their sense of envy, rather than what genuinely benefits you. Their advice can be tinted with a shade of green, the color of envy. So when you seek counsel, be aware of these underlying biases. Remember, advice should be unbiased and genuine. You need perspectives that are truly in your best interest, not clouded by the unsatisfied desires or insecurities of others. Third on our list is the non-listener. Now, we all know someone like this, don't we? The non-listener isn't really interested in what you're saying. They might nod along, but they're not truly hearing you. They're the ones who interrupt, who are already forming their response before you've even finished speaking. They're not engaging with your concerns or your problems. They're just waiting for their turn to talk. Their advice, consequently, tends to miss the mark. It's like trying to hit a bullseye blindfolded. They're throwing out suggestions without fully understanding your situation. It's like being handed a map without knowing the destination. The advice might be sound under different circumstances, but it's not relevant to you because they haven't taken the time to really understand what you need. So when it comes to advice, remember this: effective advice comes from understanding, and understanding requires good listening skills. So steer clear of the non-listeners. Their advice is likely to lead you astray, not because they mean to, but simply because they haven't truly listened. Fourth, we have the braggart. Picture this: a person who never misses an opportunity to parade their achievements, always eager to tell tales of their triumphs, even when they're not relevant to the conversation at hand. That's a braggart for you. While it's not inherently bad to be proud of one's accomplishments, remember that advice from braggarts tends to be self-centered and might not necessarily apply to your unique situation. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to work. Their experiences and circumstances are different from yours, and their advice often lacks the nuance of understanding your specific needs and challenges. So while the braggart stories might be entertaining, remember to take their advice with a grain of salt. To sum up, good advice is like a tailor-made suit. It should be personalized, fitting your needs and circumstances perfectly. It's not a one-size-fits-all garment that the braggart might try to sell you. Good advice is personalized, not one-size-fits-all. Fifth on our list is the unsuccessful. Now, this may seem a bit harsh, but let's delve into it for a moment. When seeking advice, it's crucial to consider the source. People who have not yet found success in their own lives might not be the best wellspring of wisdom. It's not about being judgmental. It's about understanding that insights and guidance often come from experience. Imagine seeking advice on climbing a mountain from someone who's never even seen a hill. Their intentions may be good, their advice may even sound logical, but without the practical experience of the climb, their advice might lead you astray. The same applies to life's many mountains. Whether it's starting a business, pursuing a career, or navigating relationships, it's best to seek advice from those who have successfully climbed similar peaks. They can share the challenges they faced, the strategies they used, and the mistakes they made, providing you with a roadmap to success. Remember, the path to success is often marked by the footprints of those who came before us. So, seek advice from those who have achieved what you aspire to. Next, we have the narrow-minded. Imagine a horse with blinders. It can only see what's directly in front of it, missing out on the wider view. That's how narrow-minded people operate. They're stuck in their own perspective, often missing the broader picture. They're the type of people who view life through a keyhole, limiting their understanding of the world around them. When you seek advice from such individuals, you're likely to get a one-sided perspective, a viewpoint that doesn't consider all the possibilities. It's like trying to understand a movie by only watching a single scene. Sure, you might get the gist of it, but you'll miss out on the nuances, the complexities, the alternate possibilities that could change the entire narrative. Now, this isn't to say that narrow-minded people are bad or their advice is useless. However, it's important to remember that their advice may be limited, confined to their own experiences and perspectives. So when you're seeking advice, look for those who can see the bigger picture, who can step back and consider multiple perspectives. Remember, good advice isn't just about providing an answer. It's about understanding the question from all angles. Good advice considers all angles. 8th on our list is the gossip. These are the individuals who are always in the know, or rather think they are. They thrive on the grapevine, often trading in rumors and hearsay instead of facts. The issue with taking advice from the gossip is that their information may not be reliable or trustworthy. Their advice is frequently based on what they've heard, not on what they've experienced or researched. It's important to remember that advice should be grounded in reality. If someone is offering advice based on a rumor they've heard or a piece of gossip they've picked up, it's worth questioning the validity of that advice. It's like building a house on a foundation of sand. It may hold up for a while, but eventually it's going to collapse. So when it comes to the gossip, it's best to take their advice with a grain of salt, or better yet, ignore it altogether. After all, advice should be based on facts, not gossip. Finally, we have the perfectionist. This individual is the one who seems to have everything in order, every detail fine-tuned to an inch of its life. They're the ones who advocate for the all or nothing approach, setting the bar incredibly high, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. While it's admirable to strive for excellence, perfectionists often set unrealistic standards. They push for 100%, always, and anything less can be seen as a failure in their eyes. This approach can be daunting and may lead you to feel inadequate or overwhelmed, especially if you're struggling to keep up with their perfect standards. Remember, it's okay to aim high, but it's also okay to accept that sometimes good enough is just that, good enough. Perfection is a subjective concept after all. Each person's perfect is unique to them and should not be compared to another's. In the grand scheme of things, taking advice from a perfectionist might make you lose sight of your own capabilities, push you towards a burnout, or make you feel like you're constantly falling short. So, tread carefully. Remember, good advice is realistic and achievable. It celebrates progress, however small, and acknowledges effort, not just the outcome. So, there you have it. The 9 types of people you should never take advice from. Let's jog our memory a bit, shall we? We began with the pessimist, who sees the glass as always half empty rather than half full. Their advice is often clouded by their negative outlook on life. Next, we had the envious, individuals who are always comparing themselves to others. Their advice is usually biased and tainted with jealousy. The non-listener followed, who are less inclined to understand your situation, Their advice is more about their own thoughts and less about your needs. Then we talked about the braggart, who is often more interested in boasting about their achievements rather than giving meaningful advice. We also discussed the unsuccessful, those who haven't found much success in their own endeavors. Their advice might not be the best roadmap for your journey. The narrow-minded came next, individuals limited by their own perspectives. Their advice often lacks breadth and depth. We then moved on to the gossip, who thrives on rumors and hearsay. Their advice is typically based on unverified information. Finally, we ended with the perfectionist, who strives for an unrealistic standard of flawlessness. Their advice can set you up for unnecessary pressure and unrealistic expectations. These 9 personalities, although diverse, have one thing in common. Their advice is often misleading, unhelpful, or downright harmful. Remember, the key to good advice is understanding, optimism, and honesty. Make sure you seek advice from the right people.